We're live, man.
We're just messing around and we're already live. Oh my god.
I know. I
What
totally
have you
forgot.
been up to? Oh well, I don't know.
Well, I was up to 242. Now I'm down to 226. So lost a little bit of weight, which is good, man.
Excellent.
I'm trying to see at what weight would my wife find me the most attractive, and I don't think I'm there yet.
Oh, you're just experimenting.
Experimenting, yeah. Just taking off, shedding the pounds, trying to live a healthy life. It's funny how the older you get, man, like the more like your morbidity kind of sets in. Like, shit, I'm not going to live forever.
Man,
And if I like this life, then I should take care of it maybe a little bit. Hey, Riker's here. What's up, dog?
Yeah, that guy, he's a good dude.
Yeah. So this is episode 39 of the, what the hell is the podcast name again? InfoSec to Insanity? Is that what we're calling this
InfoSec to
thing?
Insanity, yes sir.
All right. We didn't do last week. Last week was July 4th. What'd you do?
I went to northern Wisconsin camping semi-camping in a cabin with my cousin and kids. So there was 2 families, 6 kids, and me. Yeah. Did you ever hear of snipe?
Doesn't sound like a holiday.
There was fireworks and stuff and things. Did you ever hear of snipe hunting?
I don't think that's a real thing, man.
It's not, but I always convince the kids to go and do it because there's a big field by his place. So I'm like, all right, kids, like, because they're annoying, right? Let's just go here and like sit and be quiet. Usually get them for like 5-10 minutes. And then they're like, I don't think this is real.
That shit's only in Wisconsin, man. Should I try it down here in Mexico?
So a snipe is actually a real bird, but yeah.
All right, we'll try it in Mexico. Do they have snipes in Mexico, or
probably?
If I say that, are they actually going to take me on a real fucking hunting expedition?
I don't know if I'd want to experiment with that or not.
I'll do some research first.
So what did you do last week? You do anything?
Dude, I don't remember what I did this morning.
Right.
Shit, what did I do last week? I don't know. I really don't remember.
Over, or you got empty house right now?
The other Marine is here. John Kittleson is here.
John, yep. Nice.
Because next week my wife and I head to Europe.
Nice.
Yeah. And you've been to Europe, yeah?
Just a little bit, not a lot. Not like a full vacation, but
I'll be in Europe for I don't know how long doing my wife set it up. I don't know what we're doing.
That's the way to be, man. Just show up here, do the thing.
She made me get the plane tickets. So I did that. Yeah. I guess Switzerland. That's where we're going. Switzerland. Zurich to Amsterdam on a river cruise.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. There's no gambling. The only time I'm allowed to gamble is on cruises. My wife and I, we've been on lots of cruises. Yeah. And I was like, sweet, I can gamble again. But they don't have any gambling on this river cruise.
So you have to start the, below deck underground gambling.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep. Shoot some traps or something.
I'm going to be that American that's like, we'll do something. We'll figure something out. Make some money. But actually, every time I lose money, I last time I went on a cruise, I don't remember how much I lost, but I know I got a bunch of benefits. What do they call that when you get benefits? Perks?
Perks. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first perk was free drinks, but I don't drink. So it was like, just meant a bunch of, it meant a bunch of Red Bulls while I was gambling. And then the next perk was steak dinners, me and my wife.
That's legit.
Yeah. And then the next perk was free cruises. And then the last perk, which was like, I don't know what the hell, it was $100 to spend in the candy store.
Just give me another steak dinner. Like, what the heck?
What the hell? When they gave me that one, I was like, what the hell am I going to do with $100 in a candy store? So I bought $100 of candy and brought it back. It put my bag, my luggage, it put it overweight. Yeah.
You couldn't eat it all. Huh?
No, but I got a shitload of candy down here. Anyway, all right. Well, this is episode 39, man. Our topic for tonight is masculinity and mental health. And so this was a blog post that I'd written back in May. We're almost done with this series. I think this is maybe number 9 out of 11 or something like that. I've written a lot of stuff since then, but we haven't caught up to that yet. So May, for listeners, that was Mental Health Awareness Month. And so the way I see it, like June 1st, it's fuck mental health, right? And we can get back to the way we were.
Well, yeah, we've talked about that a couple times, right? Like, just because there's a mental health month doesn't mean we can't talk about it all the time. And it should be talked about more.
And be honest with me, man. I mean, how often would you say you struggle to varying degrees, right? I mean, there's like, if you did like a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is, I'm a little fucked up today, versus like 10 is, lock me up somewhere. But I mean, honestly, how often do you struggle with mental health challenges?
I'm probably struggling at some sort of level every day.
Yeah. And that's the thing about mental health. It's not one of those things where it's just like you come to some epiphany, take some drug, and it's done. I mean, this shit's with us all the time. You know what I mean? And it seems like the worst times for me are the ones when I feel like I got it. Like I get this like sense of, yeah, I'm good. And then you sort of, I don't know if it's I let my guard down or pride gets me or what, but then it's usually like within the next day or two, it's back, there's a reality check.
Well, I think that kind of talks about, what you mentioned in your blog, right? Like, where we identify it and then it's like, yo, I'm a man. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Suck it up. Get through it. But then you're really just lying to yourself and you're not actually dealing with, what's happening.
Well,
in my experience.
And you and I have the Marine Corps in common. Mm-hmm. Me growing up there, you choosing to go there. I don't know why the fuck you chose, but you did.
I was socially engineered into joining the Marine Corps, by the way.
Were you really?
Yeah, the recruiter.
We should talk to find out how John got himself into that mess. But I was raised that way. I mean, my dad wanted me to be tough and he raised me to be tough. And it was a lot of times of just get your shit together. But he did have like a sixth sense of like knowing when some shit was like real shit. And then he would kind of he'd show kind of the human side. But yeah, I don't think a lot of kids are raised that way now, to be honest. And maybe I'm just old and
so what do you think? What do you think about that? Like you've gone, you've raised your kids. I imagine your dad, wasn't, open or vulnerable with you very often, but when it was probably very powerful. But if we normalize it and we're like, do you think that takes anything away from it? Or like, I'm just curious if there's anything there.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I think, he was a hard ass and he kind of softened up, I think, once he retired from the Marine Corps and I was like a teenager. I think during the time in the Marine Corps, it was different. I think, for me and my kids, it wasn't the shitstorm that was coming if you fucked up. It was the fear of the shitstorm that was coming if you fucked up that I think kept things in check. So I rarely had to actually crack down on stuff. I think they were just afraid if I did, you know what I mean? Or if they did, then something was going to happen. But with my kids, I think, I don't know. I think I was like more of a kid with my kids. We did a lot of shit together. A lot of neighborhood games, the capture the flag, just, paintball, shooting each other, shit like that. So I don't know. I don't think I was as tough on my kids. Well, maybe I was. Shit, I don't know. We'd have to ask them. I don't know what they think, to be honest. I mean, they still talk to me. That's cool. So I didn't fuck them up that bad.
That's a win, I would say, for sure.
Yeah, I think my wife probably has the most, claim to fame in that, because she was the nurturing type. I was the fuck around and find out type, but I was also we would play video games like Halo. And I remember one time, Brendan, one of my sons, he was just faster, reaction time than me. So he'd go get the fucking shotgun or the sword before I did, and it pissed me off. So one time I leaned over and punched him in the shoulder and knocked him off his chair.
Oops.
But I think he forgave me for that.
Being competitive, though.
That's one thing I've always been. Very, very, very competitive. That's have you ever done Strengths Finders before?
I don't think so.
You should do that. I think one of the things I've learned to appreciate, over time in my life and in my career and in my marriage and everything, is trying to find like who I am. You know what I mean? Like really who I am. Because anybody who knows me knows that they don't know me.
Is this the same thing Kevin was talking about, or is that different?
Kevin? Who's Kevin?
Your partner. Your business partner?
My work wife? Kevin?
Yeah, your work wife. He told me to do this
I don't know.
test.
Does he talk?
That episode we had him on.
I didn't give him permission to talk. No, that was
John.
I think
it's different.
That was John Herman.
That's right. Yeah. I'm fucked up.
No, Kevin's got to stay at home and do the laundry and shit. He's not allowed to come out and talk to people. We don't let him do that. So Strengths Finders is so I've learned to appreciate like trying to understand who I am more, what makes me tick, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, try to be honest with myself. So one of those things along that journey was to do Strengths Finders, and it tells you what your biggest strengths are. The theory is that you focus on your strengths and you minimize your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So the things that I'm good at, be gooder at it. The things that I suck at, don't try to be good at it. Minimize it, meaning either avoid those situations or put somebody else in place that is good at that stuff, something. And my number 2 strength is competition.
So you were a competitive swimmer. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was competitive in everything. I still am. People won't play games with me. You've tried to play me in cribbage. You know what that looks like?
I've won a couple.
How many games we played?
I think we've played 6, and I think I'm 2 and 4.
Yeah, it's about as good as you're gonna get, man.
I don't know. I played teams. Was pretty fun. A couple of weeks ago, I played a tournament, and I went and won with my cousin. We won 7 games in a row. That was pretty legit.
Yeah,
I was feeling on top of the world.
You just totally changed the subject, just like a liberal. Did I say that out loud? Did people hear that?
I guess they'll hear it when they watch it.
Well, they can get offended if they want.
They'll be offended or not offended. They can choose.
Feel free to get offended. At least we got a rise out of you, and maybe you'll say something rather than just sit back and don't do shit.
Yeah, right.
All right. Yeah. So you changed the subject because I was like, you and I, in our games, you're 2 and 4, and then you go to like, well, yeah, but I played this team thing.
But I played these other guys. But we did win when we played euchre. You carried us. That was pretty fun.
Oh, euchre? Yeah, I really like euchre. Wish I could play euchre for money. I played euchre at my mom. I was visiting my mom in Ohio, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And, she's up there in age, and she's not in a nursing home, but she goes and like visits and does shit with nursing home people and stuff. And so this one time I was visiting, I guess they were having a euchre tournament at the nursing home. And my mom was like, you love euchre. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, go play with these guys. You know, they love it. It's like, all right. So I went and played, and holy shit, they tore me a new asshole. I will not play with old people again. That was fucking bullshit.
Oh, so you pick your targets. I see.
That's what, so I was saying that. So when I've learned that was you basically have my top 5 strengths. Number 1 is relator. Number 2 is competition. I don't even remember the others right now, but so then I dug into like, okay, if I'm supposed to be capitalizing on these strengths and minimizing these weaknesses, what are these actual strengths and how do I fucking capitalize on it? And so I learned more about this competition thing. And I came to the conclusion that for me, it just means I only play games where I think I can win. So I won't play games with people that I don't think I'm going to win. It's kind of weird. And it happens kind of naturally. That's why I won't play golf. Mm-hmm. Fuck you and your golf. Because I've had so many people try to get me as a business owner, you know, try to get you to go play golf. Yeah. I'm like, no, I don't want to play golf. I'm like, well, why not? And I'm like, well, because I suck at it. Like, well, that's okay. We won't keep score. I'm like, the fuck you don't keep score?
I shot a 52 yesterday as one of my best scores.
On a par 3? 9-hole par 3?
No, 9 holes.
Oh, that's good.
Par's probably 34 or 36 or something.
That's pretty good, man.
Yeah, it's the best I've done this year so far.
Yeah,
so
I have no interest in golf. You know what I do have an interest in? Check this shit out. So,
all right, lay it down.
Oh yeah, I'm laying it right now. Bam. We took a week off, but you know, I've been thinking about this podcast and how to make it more fun, and I got some ideas that we'll run later. One of the things I was talking about how I like to do like racing games now. I used to do FPS, first person shooter games a lot. Mm-hmm. And so on that competition thing, like I was the shit, you know, I played with a team that was, you know, really good at Call of Duty. Then my marriage was suffering and everything. So I stopped playing it. And plus my reflexes wouldn't keep up. It doesn't matter.
Old and slow.
Yeah. So I quit playing that, and then I started doing racing games. And so I like, and my favorite kinds of racing games are, rally sport racing. And I haven't played for a while, but I was talking to, who was I talking to? Oscar. Oscar Minks, the president of FR Secure. Mm-hmm. And I was like, because I have one-on-ones with him, you know, once a week. And I was like, dude, I think I want to get in, and I want to figure out how to build a nice racing rig, you know what I mean? Build a cockpit and do some shit. And he's like, have you ever heard of iRacing? Mm-hmm. Have you heard of that?
I have. I used to have a coworker. He built his own like machine, like you're talking about. He had a whole thing, feedback. Like he was in the old man like racing league. It was crazy.
I'd never heard of iRacing before, so I so I started looking into it. And I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is going to be a whole nother area of my life that I'm either going to really enjoy or really regret. So, but we decided that we're going to start our own, like, not really league, but, you know, get a whole bunch of friends together that like to, that like this thing.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it this winter because he lives in Montana and he's looking for a winter project. So he's going to build his rig in the winter and then start racing. So if you're interested,
Robin's racing.
If you're interested, man, we could start doing an iRacing segment of this podcast and, you know, share some of the footage of me kicking your ass.
I mean, maybe.
No, not maybe, dude. I'm not only going to play if I'm going to win. We already talked about this.
Talked about this. Yeah, but you've never seen me race. So
Doesn't matter. I don't, you know, here's another thing about competition and winners. Winners focus on winning. Losers focus on winners.
Focus on winners, yes.
Yeah. So I don't care what kind of racer you are. I'm still going to win. We're going to do that. You want to do that?
I'll have to look and do some investigation. I've never done it before. It sounds fun. I used to play. That
was weird. That was like a yes no question, and then you did this.
I kind of dodged it. Yeah, because
I think you do have. Did you put some liberal on you or something?
No. maybe. I don't
No,
know.
maybe.
So I used to play this racing game on the PC, like in the early 2000s. You could build like all the parts for your car, the engine, cam, like the whole thing. I did that. That
Hmm.
was fun. And then I like
Yeah.
never really played racing games again. I'll look into it and see what it. I don't have a lot of space in my apartment, so I'll have to see what I could come up with.
You don't have a lot of space in your what?
Apartment. I don't have a house. I have an apartment.
Yeah, but it's funny. You find space for things that
You make space. Yes.
I'll help you out too, man. I mean, if you like need some help putting something together, because I think I'm gonna. He said winter, but you know me, man. I
Oh, you're
won't be
gonna
able to
get
wait.
at it early. Yeah,
I
man.
won't be able to wait till winter.
Mhm.
I'll
I'm
I'll
trying.
put that shit together as soon as I get back from Europe for sure.
Well, we'll put some stuff together when I'm down there in September. That's rolling up quick.
Oh, that's right. You're coming in September.
Mhm.
Should I try to have it built before you get here?
I mean, you don't have to, but I wouldn't argue.
Well, I think if I want to build a rig like that, I think I have to do two.
Oh, so you could play with the company, right?
So I could race
It'd be
with
like an
somebody. Yeah.
arcade.
Well, that's kind of what it's turning into, man. I got
You got all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, I got lots of shit to fuck around with. Um,
So do you
yeah.
want to do you want to jump into the blog, or you want to talk about the internet sphere with all the things going on?
Oh, the what the fuck happened this week segment?
Yeah.
You want to get into that? All right. What the fuck happened this week then? What do you got? Or you want me to come up with something? I'll tell you something. The AI Marco Rubio deepfake.
Oh, I missed that. Marco
Yeah,
Rubio.
Here, I'll read what I wrote or what I got written. An AI-powered impersonator posed as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, dispatching voice memos, texts, and even signal messages to foreign ministers, U.S. senators, and a governor, seeking sensitive intel. The State Department and FBI are investigating as teams brace for the rise of AI-driven impersonation attacks.
What are we bracing for? We said this was going to happen like 3 years ago.
Dude, I've been in this industry for 30 years. Like, I mean, we saw all this shit coming. I mean, none of this is a surprise. None of it's like, and then you try to remind people, like, I told you so. And they're like, yeah, but then they still don't change.
Oh, I don't remember that you told me that 3 years ago.
3 years ago that AI was going to fuck your mother. Did I say that out loud too?
You did.
Sorry about that.
So Ingram, did you hear about that?
Let's talk more about this AI Marco Rubio thing, man. What do you do when people fall for that shit?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because even so, then you go and let's just say, like in the normal world, right? You would put out a retort. I mean, if you do that, who's going to say that that's not fake? I mean, you pretty much. I don't know, man.
Deep fakes have gotten fantastically good, man.
It's like I was at CypherCon up in Milwaukee, and I was walking by this thing. The dude was like, "Stand still." He turned me into Arnold Schwarzenegger in like real time. That was nuts.
Yeah, there's a lot of apps right now that people are using, that social media influencers are using to insert themselves into all kinds of weird, movies. And they look legit on the fact that the movie that you made is just the storyline is fantasy. But in terms of just, if the storyline had not been fantasy, it looks like it's real.
Yeah, the quality is good.
Yeah, because I think this is going to just keep getting worse and worse. I know I've talked to my wife about it because she likes to talk about politics once in a while. And I explained to her today in the truck why I don't like to talk about politics. And, essentially it comes down to, I don't like stupid. And a lot of time, I mean, if you can back up things, even political things, with logic and reason, I think I can make sense of that. But most of the rhetoric and bullshit comes from ignorance and emotions.
Extreme views driven by emotion.
In
influenced
ignorance.
by.
Like there was this one thing, or she was talking about, this alligator Alcatraz or whatever.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
And some dude was, freaking out about it because, they're just taking Mexicans or anybody who even looks Mexican and they're taking them off the street and throwing them in there. And I'm like, that's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're I get being passionate about certain topics, but if you're going to speak, try to do some research first. If you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, then shut the fuck up.
Well, it all drives engagement and clicks, and that's all it's for. They don't
Right.
care if like the fact that there's some people that are absorbing or believing that information is not what matters. I actually just listened to a podcast about this, about how the Russians have been doing that for decades. Like they'll do both sides. They don't care as long as we're extreme and hating each other.
That's it, man. That was that was the only way you were ever going to defeat the United States, was to divide us.
Mhm.
When you've seen us, when we've been united as a people, like, you can't fuck with this.
Mhm.
But when we're fighting each other, you just sit back and watch us kill each other. That's kind of the shit. But rolling this into the AI thing, like if you already got this misinformation and you've got this emotional kind of response to shit and you don't do research and you don't have discernment and you can't think critically, it's going to lead you down this path of believing that this shit is true.
Mhm.
Believing that Marco Rubio sent you a message asking for some deep, sensitive intel on some shit. And yeah, I've never gotten this before. And then you give away the intel, but you're not giving it to him.
I think
You know what I mean? It's
that's your internet. You're back now, I think.
Oh,
You're
I was
good.
saying a whole bunch of really cool shit.
Lost you for a second.
I lost you for a second. No, did you hear any of that?
Nope.
My concern is the dumbing down of people. We've lost our ability, and I'm saying collectively. Some of us are still very good critical thinkers, but I think collectively we've lost our ability to think critically on shit. There's been at least one study that I read how AI is making us stupider. We're relying on machines to do the things that we're supposed to be doing. Like if you use a machine to write blog posts for you, there's nothing wrong with that. Understand that you missed out on that whole creativity thing. And when you do that creativity thing, it's like a lesson. You learn shit.
Well, I wonder.
You learn to deduce things, you learn discernment. And if you take all that shit away, you just become more prone, and it's a perfect storm for AI deepfake shit.
Well, I wonder if it's like how you use it, right? So AI is just a tool. I could say, write me a blog post, I could copy it and then put it out there. Or I could interact with it more and then, okay, I didn't like this piece, change this piece. You could still be creative by changing things up, editing it, and then putting it back
Yeah, for
versus
sure.
just copying it straight out and putting it out there.
I think the key is, is for me, it's not to be over reliant on it. It's okay to use AI, even if you want to write a whole blog post with just AI, but then recognize, what you did is you missed out. Like if you've ever, like I assume you've written something from scratch. It just came out of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Back
And
in the
you
day.
struggled with it. You went through, like when I wrote on security, there were days when things flowed freely. There were days when you had significant like writer's block. There were days when it was, but all that, the whole process was a growing process where it's natural. It's part of learning. It's part of whatever, to struggle getting something out of you, because it's like one of the things I said when I wrote that book, when I finally came to the realization that I'm not writing this book for somebody else, that I'm actually writing this book for me. It's like an artist, right? And when an artist paints a painting, they usually paint a painting for themselves. It's their expression. It's to get something out of them onto a canvas, right? There's like a magical thing that happens to a person when you go through that process that you don't get if you just have AI do it for you. You know, I mean,
I can see that.
yeah. So, but you know, the more you become dependent on the machine, the more control you give to the machine. I think there's responsible use and, you know, there's irresponsible use. You just set yourself up for, it's like giving, when you, I don't know if you've seen this in your life, but when I've ended up in like dark places, it wasn't one decision that led me to that dark place. It was a series of compromises over a long period of time that led me to the dark place.
Yes, totally.
And I think that's the thing when I use AI, I try to be really cognizant, or any tool, doesn't matter what it is. I try to be really cognizant of, am I making a compromise? And if so, you know what I mean? Just trying to compensate for that shit. Because what I don't want to do is become dependent on it and then get to a point where 2-3 years down the road, I'm looking back and going, how the fuck did I get here? I can't write a goddamn thing anymore. I can't paint a painting anymore. I can't play any music anymore. I can't, you know what I mean? Because I'm so dependent on AI. I can't think critically anymore. You know, I can't, you know, you have some people that are using AI to manage their entire day. Like, what should I do today?
I just talked to a guy about that the other day. He was wearing one of the new wearable things, and it records so he's like, do you mind being recorded? And it records his whole day, and then it downloads, and then in the morning when he's drinking coffee, he refreshes everything he did the fucking day before.
I think one of the things that people miss out when you think about the critical thinking, the one thing that people seem to continually skip over is the first thing you should fucking be asking yourself, which is why? Why am I doing this? Why am I using AI? Why am I using this application? You know, you just do it.
Well, speaking about critical thinking, let's, I'm gonna, you know what grinds my gears? I'm gonna pivot to that
Dude,
LinkedIn
you sound like
post.
you sound like an old man now. I love that. You know what grinds my gears?
That LinkedIn post I shared with you about who's responsible for information security.
Oh,
And
God.
I think that
Dude.
this is critical thinking, right? So everybody, or there's not everybody, a lot of people seem to think like there's a right or a wrong answer, but you have to look at the context. The question was, who's responsible? And they had board of directors, CEO, the CISO, right? So if you're thinking through what the options are, if there is a board of directors, yeah. So like if the board wasn't an option, the CEO would be responsible. But since the board is listed as an option, that's the context, and they would be responsible.
100%. So this is from the cyber.
It's logical. Yes.
Yeah. So this is a poll from the Cybersecurity Hub, which on LinkedIn is like super popular, 1.9 million followers. And I would assume, based on the name, the Cybersecurity Hub, that a lot of these are security people, probably. And so the question that you're alluding to, and because this isn't the first time they've done this same poll, but the results haven't gotten any better. So the question is, who is ultimately responsible for information security within an organization? And your four choices are CISO, CEO, the board, or other. So I don't know if they've done this like every year, but the last time they did it, the answers changed a little bit from your options. But the problem is 46% say the one who's ultimately responsible for information security in an organization is the CISO. 46% said CISO. 24% said CEO. 24% said the board. And 6% said other.
Yeah. So we're not even agreeing on how we're supposed to be doing our job.
Dude, and I can't...
That's terrible.
I railed on this, like, I think the first time I saw this same survey was maybe like 3-4 years ago. And I was like, what in the fuck? Because I always thought this, obviously I wrote a book on it and whatever, that the information security industry is broken. Like seriously broken. And this is so fundamental. This is like the most fundamental kind of.
And this is where you start. You can't do anything if this isn't right. Yeah.
So the right answer on this, 100%, no doubt, is the board. Who's ultimately responsible for information security in an organization? It's the board of directors. It's the top of the heap. Now, if you would have chosen CEO, it's the wrong answer. But
in this context, because the board is an option. If the board wasn't an option, it would be the right answer.
See, dude, I fucking want to give you a big hug right now. There's hope for Marines.
I left my crayons at home, but I promise you I will eat them when I get back.
So that tells you how big of a hill we need to climb. So 24%, only 24% got it right. 76% got it wrong. So it's not even close. If you talk about competition, you just got your ass whooped.
And the crazy thing is,
it was like the Packers playing the Vikings this year.
Oh boy. So it's like you go out there, but a lot of these people that are doing it wrong are in like high positions. They got these titles.
Yeah.
They got it's like, so now when you're trying to enter the industry, like you're almost intimidated.
Well, and the fact that you can't answer this fundamental question correctly, regardless. Yeah, there are a lot of leaders who are answered this and answered it incorrectly. It just goes to show like how far we need to go, but it's such a simple problem to fix. You want to talk like CISA or the legislature or somebody in government. If you want to fix this problem like right now, just say it. The board of directors is ultimately responsible for information security in the organization. That is the truth, but make it known to people so that there's not this like constant confusion in our industry, like finger pointing all the time. We've talked about this numerous times too, the problem of accountability in this industry. It's fucked. There is no accountability in this industry. Yeah. And people will point out, well, this one thing, this one time, this one person was held accountable. Back to your point on context, that you're always going to have like one-offs, but in context, it's 100% safe to say there is no accountability in this fucking industry.
Right. We should
and
do
lots of people like it this way. I'm thinking about writing a whole series on this.
We should.
Because I have 4 reasons, this shit gets your mind going. I think there's 4 reasons that I can come up with off the top of my head on why it's this way. Number 1, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt enough. The people that are actually suffering from breaches and the bullshit.
Well, don't give away all the answers. Let's save them for the
I was going to give you a taste of it. Well, and I'm going to put this in the Unsecurity 2 book too. But I think that's number 1. Number 2 is it's not an election issue. And I won't go any deeper in that. Number 3, lawyers like it this way.
Yeah.
Number 4, I can't remember. There's a shitload of money being made the way it is, right? By big players and insiders within our industry.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, from my own company, FR Secure, it's like, yeah, we're making a shitload of money right now, but I don't want to make fucking dirty money.
It's because people aren't doing it right is why you're making money. Yeah. I
would rather go do something else. If this problem was fixed, like security was not a fucking thing that I could run a business with anymore and I had to go figure out another way to make money, I would love that. Let's go do that. Then I could become that musician because everybody knows that fucking rock stars get the chicks, dude, not the cybersecurity people. Are you kidding me?
All right.
I got the tattoos. I get, get good, get up on stage. Dude. People, yeah, I'm gonna have all kinds of chicks. All right, number 2, that was number 1 anyway, on the what the fuck happened this week.
Yeah, I'm trying
ready for number 2?
Keep us going. Yes.
4 people arrested after £300 million retail cyber attack in the UK.
That's MS, right? Or MNS?
MNS, yep. You talked about that. You texted me about that, I think, this week.
Yeah, so I texted you about it because they came out and they said they weren't gonna say if they paid the ransom or not, and I thought that was bullshit.
They paid the
Like,
ransom.
well, for sure, but like it's 2025, dude. Fucking get over it.
Yeah. Well, here's the story for listeners who hadn't heard it. 4 suspects, 2 teenagers, 1 17-year-old, and 1 woman were nabbed over ransomware attacks on British retail giants M&S, Co-op, and Harrods. So there are 3 retailers involved. M&S alone suffered an estimated £300 million of losses over the 6 weeks disruption. So teenagers, I mean, this is like not sophisticated,
No, that you just go out and you buy it as a service. I mean, it's a enterprise. It's not even a business model anymore. It's an enterprise.
You got teenagers running rings around corporate giants, man. It's nuts. All right, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but the British Airways lockout, that disaster. So here's what I got. Overzealous security was deployed with zero coordination. So this was a response to that. It's like you can't make this shit up. Like, all right, we got fucked. So that's the one time when you really want to get your shit straight. Because the whole world's watching, executive management's watching, everybody's watching right now. So overzealous security was deployed with zero coordination. Employees worldwide were locked out of systems after British Airways parent IAG triggered a mandatory password reset. Over half the staff are abroad, forced to undergo a 40-minute support process at Heathrow. Union Morning's summer schedules are at risk now.
It's crazy. So I've had to do this before, right? You have to reset passwords like globally. You come in, your IR people are always going to be like, you must reset all your passwords. And like, oh, let's just do it like that. No, that's not how it works. You have to like sit down and develop a plan, a schedule, and it usually takes multiple days before it's done because you can't do that. Business first.
And this also gives you a little bit of insight into maybe, I mean, you can assume some things about the investigation because I really, really doubt that the entire fucking organization needed to reset passwords. I'm pretty sure that had you done a good job investigating what happened, where they went, had some containment. Now, ideally, you'd have things set up, right in the first place where you'd have the logging and everything to tell you that shit. But usually this stuff in an organization like that, it hits a business unit. It hits a segment of the enterprise, not the entire enterprise. So then a good response would be, all right, let's focus on doing the password reset for the ones we know got hit. And then eventually, maybe even over the course of 6 months, you can roll out the rest of the password reset deployment.
Yeah,
but
you don't need a knee-jerk
This is such
reaction.
a shit show. Yeah. No. And I can only imagine like the CISO I don't know who the CISO is at British Airways. Maybe we'll need to look him up or her up and invite them to the show. That'd be fun. But like, what the fuck was this?
I wonder if they were even consulted. Like the tech person was just like, maybe they had some automated script or something. It was the parent company, so who knows?
Oh, that's true. I'm guessing Mandiant was probably involved in some of this.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Because something this scale, Mandiant likes to weasel their way into this shit. Yeah, Mandiant probably consulted them. Hey, we need to do a password reset like immediately and some bullshit and whatever. I don't know. It's incompetence. It's lack of logic. It's lack of reason. And this is what happens also in an incident response when you let emotion run the show, right? Fear. You don't think straight. We need to do a password reset now. Like now, because it's really, really fucking, you don't think straight. You don't need to do it now. And you don't need to do it everywhere.
That's why there's the multiple phases of the incident response. You can do
Yeah.
multiples at the same time, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and fucking think, man. That's another, and it's also, we were just talking about context. That's another example of a shitty decision with poor context. It doesn't make any sense to do that shit. So, all right, the last one I got is rising threats, big investments in small business security. Since we were talking about the UK shit, I figured why not? The UK government dropped 1.3 million pounds to protect 500 small businesses in critical industries, defense, AI, life sciences, etc. Grants up to 2.5 thousand pounds per company to fund. It's like, that ain't a lot of money, is it? What's a pound? Is it like 2 pounds per dollar or something like
I
that?
don't
So it's
know
like
how to do that.
$5,000 per company to fund this MI5 GCHQ. Fucking,
75
what the hell?
cents per dollar,
75
or
cents per dollar.
75.75 pounds is a dollar.
All right. So then your 2.5 would be like 6,000 US dollars ish, 6,500, something like that. All right. But anyway, they did this before. They did this pilot in 2023. If you know the story behind this, which I wouldn't expect you to. But in 2023, they did a pilot of this same thing. And according to their study, 98% of the small businesses that they did this with, saw improved defenses. Which I don't know how you're measuring that. I'd be interested in digging deeper to see how you're measuring
Our
improved
industry likes to
defenses.
come up with bullshit metrics. They're probably like, "Oh, there's nobody hitting my firewall because I'm ignoring those log
Right.
messages now." I don't know.
I got to read more about this because I'd be willing to bet like $50 that CrowdStrike has their fingers in this shit somewhere.
Oh,
This
on the
sounds
metrics and detections or something?
that and the CrowdStrike likes to, this is how they get their fingers into shit. So these companies, these small businesses, because they're doing the same thing in K-12 right now in the US. So they like give you this reduced, maybe even free use of this thing, right, of their platform or whatever for like a year. And then they got you hooked on the drug. And then they start charging you, a lot for it, the retail price. But this smells like CrowdStrike. I'm going to have to look into that. All right. Anyway, that's what I got for what the fuck happened this week. I'm sure there's more. What do you got?
Did
You
you
got
hear
something, Matt?
about Ingram Micro?
No.
You
What
hear
happened?
about them? Ransomware.
Ingram Micro.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're the number 2 largest VAR behind CDW in the
Probably.
world.
Yeah. July 3rd, they got hit.
July 3rd.
Yeah.
It's the 10th, right?
They started disconnecting systems. I don't know. Obviously, it's all still lipped up right now, but supposedly safe player. I mean, why do we even track ransomware groups anymore? Because it's fucking new one every day. It's dumb. But whatever.
Well, I mean, talk about ransomware groups. You had 2 teenagers, a 17-year-old and a woman.
Yeah, it don't even
How are you
matter.
going to track these groups? And I've said this for years, and you probably heard me. I don't know, maybe you haven't heard me say it, but if I didn't have the scruples, if I didn't give a shit about people and doing the right thing, I would be a fucking billionaire. It's so fucking easy to make as much money as you ever wanted to make.
I tell people this all the time. It's easier to be a bad person than it is to be a good person.
Right. And if you understand how easy this shit is, you would also think a lot less of these cyber gangs that a lot of people give, like
they're sophisticated
group.
attackers.
No, man, it's easy. It really is.
But we teach all the young kids entering the industry to be fucking hackers, and they think they're going to be bug bountying and whatever.
Well, here, I got a great idea. Why don't we do this? Why don't we just use AI?
I saw
We don't
someone
need
post out.
we don't need any more critical thinkers in this industry. We need more fucking AI.
We can sell it. That's all that matters.
That's so true.
All right, so you want to jump into the blog?
Well, no, I have another segment.
Oh, okay. Hit me with it.
I'm just trying it out. It was off the the cuff, man. So I'm gonna call it Hack Naked After Hours.
Half naked after hours.
Hack.
Okay.
Hack naked.
Oh, not half naked. Hack naked. Okay.
Yeah, but we'll do it this first time with our clothes on. But I'm thinking maybe in future episodes. I mean, if we want to increase viewership and whatever, we can do it naked. I don't give a shit.
I mean, you did try to convince me that everyone walks around Mexico naked. I'm just saying.
That's what I was told. Oh, and I'm losing weight for a reason, man. I mean, partially I want to lose weight because I want to live longer, but the real reason is because I want to be able to be naked more often with less complaints.
Gotta look good at the beach, man. Beach bed.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I like it.
So Hack Naked After Hours. So
okay.
These are just some jokes, and I didn't create these. I don't want, I'm not going to take any credit. When I do create them, I will tell you I created them.
Okay.
But I asked AI, ChatGPT, to be more specific, to come up with some raunchy jokes for me to tell on the podcast.
Ooh, okay.
And I also asked ChatGPT to give me a name for this series. So I was like, I wasn't in a creative mood. I'm like, what do you got? They came up with Hack Naked After Hours. I'm like, I can play with that and I can do a lot of shit with that. That's cool. So the first one, and I'll just read the jokes. I'll go right through them. I have 8 jokes that ChatGPT came up with for me. All right, number 1. 8. Why did the CISO cross the road, Matt?
To sign his Microsoft contract.
That's not bad. But no, I wouldn't do that. Anyway, maybe it's... So the answer, why did the CISO cross the road? To tell everyone on the other side it's not a matter of if, but when.
I don't like it.
Stupid joke, right? Yeah. So in the next episode that we do this segment, I'm going to work on my prompt with ChatGPT, and it's going to give me much better shit than this shit.
All right. Shit's good.
All right, number 2. What's the difference between a vulnerability scan and a marriage?
Oh, I feel like that's gonna be a good one. I can't think of something.
One only tells you what's wrong. The other tells you exactly who's to blame. You got a giggle out of that one.
That's a good one. I like that one.
And I think what we'll do, maybe in a future episode, is we'll try to craft our own jokes. And then, I've been seeing on this like social media, the only thing I ever use Facebook for is to watch the videos. Do you ever watch the videos on Facebook? I think they're funny as fuck.
I'm not on Facebook, but I'm thinking about turning it back on because I might buy a MetaQuest.
All right. Did you use mine?
I did use yours when I was there. Yeah, we played the.
Did you like it?
It was fun. Yeah, I got stuck playing Batman, but
that iRacing that I was talking about. You could set up a rig with like a curved monitor if you wanted to, but you can also use VR with it.
VR would be the way to go.
Dude, that'd be mind blowing. If yeah. Anyway, we'll have to see. But I think one of the things that I've seen in some of those Facebook videos that I watch is you tell jokes, right? Two people sit across from each other and you tell a joke and you try to make the other one laugh, and then whoever laughs has to take a shot. Well, you and I won't take a shot, but we'll do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it.
All right. So number 3, why don't red teamers ever get invited to parties, Matt?
Because they're always trying to break into the party.
Sort of. It's because they show up unannounced, take your stuff, and then write a smug report about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people don't think about the report piece.
No, the report. If you're not good at writing reports, that's actually, we really prioritize.
I got to tell people how to do them better for me every time I have an engagement.
Yeah. What did the security analyst say during a romantic dinner?
Oh, can I penetrate you?
Jeez. All right. That's not the answer, but we could go there. We could make this a lot raunchier for sure as we go. I mean, and just make this show like
I want
it's
to
an
penetrate your firewall.
yeah, make it an adult only show. We'll just have to give a little disclaimer at the beginning, like, hey, if you're offended by talk of, boobs, vaginas, penises, this isn't going to be the episode for you.
It's already like rated whatever, so we're good.
Yeah, whatever. That's because we just talk about shit.
Yeah.
All right. So why did the security analyst? What did the security analyst say during a romantic dinner? "Quote unquote, you've got beautiful eyes. Also, you just clicked a malicious link."
Wow.
But here's the thing. I think my wife in some ways might be a security analyst, because one of the things I know a lot of security analysts, obviously. And I think if I were to put myself in, like, empathize and like figure out, like, if I was at a romantic dinner with this security analyst, I guarantee you that security analyst would kill the mood. You know what I mean? You've ever been with a woman, Matt, and like things are going great and then they kill the mood?
Yes. You're in the groove. And they're like, I'm thinking too much.
Yeah. That's what I think it would be like. That's why I think maybe my wife sometimes says stupid shit when you're there. That's why maybe my wife is a security analyst. I don't know. All right, number 5. Why are patch management meetings like bad dates?
Because you can't agree on when to eat.
Maybe. Usually it's because they're awkward. Nobody wants to be there, and at the end, someone still gets exposed. Why don't SOC analysts play hide and seek?
Because they know where they're going to be found.
Well, good luck hiding when they already got your metadata, login history, and browser footprint. Yeah, see, ChatGPT is going to have to up the game in the next episode for sure.
Yep.
Number 7, what do threat actors and your in-laws have in common?
You don't like when they're around.
They always show up when you're most vulnerable and refuse to leave.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That one I actually like.
Yep.
I like that joke.
I
might have to use that, tell that to my next in-law that comes to visit.
Stop being a threat actor.
Yeah. Why did the blue team break up with the red team?
Because the red team kept getting caught in the cookie jar.
That's pretty close, man. The answer is we just didn't have the same goals. They were into chaos. I was into stability. All right. Well, we'll work on that. We'll make that.
We'll workshop it. We'll beat it around a little bit. I like it. That's fun.
We'll workshop it. I like how you put that. All right. So the topic for the blog post. We're an hour in, and here we are. We're going to talk about what.
If you're still here, we're
if you're not here, I don't give a shit, Matt.
We just like talking to each other.
Yeah, this is good. This is like my weekly therapy session. Do I have to start paying you for this?
No.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because I have to pay my therapist quite a bit. I don't know if
I'll have to jot down. I'll have to make an invoice. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, fuck invoicing. I'm not doing that. Yeah. All right. So the blog post was, like I said, it was written towards the end of May, I think. And I had written a series of blog posts about mental health and kind of the struggles that I deal with, I think. And that was the perspective. When you talk about context perspective, it's not, I know I'm not a mental health expert. I know I'm not trained to treat people on this shit. But what I can do, and I think what all of us can do It doesn't matter if it's cybersecurity, if it's talking to your kids, if it's talking to your wife, whatever, is being transparent and sharing your own stories, your own experiences through this shit. I've had a lot of people over the years come up to me and thank me for just being me, just sharing your shit, right? Matt, are you paying attention? Because I'm not over there where the fuck you were just.
I am paying attention.
All right, because you looked like you were over there somewhere.
Yeah, there's like 3 kids here.
Just lock them up somewhere.
They're not
lock them up somewhere, dude. I just lock them up. Talk about what Dad used to do. Have you ever been thanked for sharing some of your own mental health struggles with other people? Have they gotten strength out of that from you?
Not directly, indirectly.
Yeah. That's the thing, man. You never know. Like I was talking to a younger, every once in a while, probably weekly, somebody sets up a meeting with somebody who just wanted to meet you. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's what it seemed like. And this last week, it was this guy named AJ. Right. And I love these talks because these guys are the future of our industry. And just when I'm like down and out about like, this industry is so fucked, we're so screwed, there's no way we're coming out of this. Then you meet somebody like AJ. And like I said, this happens probably once a week. And he gets on and, we're talking and he had a series. I don't know how many times this kid thanked me. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for being this and whatever. And he had a series of questions already like written out for me to answer. And he just sucked it all in, man. I mean, it was like, dude, this kid is amazing. And, but the point here isn't the ego stroking shit. The point is when you're real with people, when you share your stories, when you share the truth about things, it helps other people. And that's one thing I think that everybody can do. Everybody can fucking do it. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do it because they're afraid to be judged. They're afraid to be minimized. They're afraid to be attacked or whatever. Fuck that shit. I think it's harder to be somebody that you're not than it is to deal with the people that are going to judge you for who you are. Because you know that the people that are judging you for who you are full of shit anyway, and their opinion doesn't fucking matter. Because you've gotten to a point when you're transparent with yourself, you've gotten to a point of self-like realization where you don't draw on their approval as much for your own like self-esteem. I mean, it just doesn't matter what the fuck people think. This is who I am. If you don't like me, then don't fucking be here. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? We do these shows like every week, right? And we're, sometimes there's like maybe 2 people that are joining us live, maybe 3. I don't give a fuck. If one person listens to this shit and gets benefit out of it, it's worth it. I'll spend 8 hours sitting here talking about whatever the fuck I'm talking about because it's also helping me. Because this AJ, I guess, had also been, I think you'd been talking to him on one of our episodes in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Because he had also brought up, yeah, man, I've seen your podcast and fuck, I just resonate with that. You guys are so real and shit. And I'm like, amen, brother. Everybody should be fucking real. And you shouldn't do it, to try to win other people's approval. You should do it because you're being true to yourself. So anyway, all that shit. And this is one of those things where in that blog post series, I'd gotten to these thoughts about what's it like to be a man in today dealing with mental health shit. You know what I mean? Most of my friends, we talk about mental health things, not obsess about it, right? We don't want to dramatize it. You don't want to get all drama bullshit. So then that's fake too. But get to a point where you can just talk openly and normally about things that you're struggling with, whether it be depression, whether it be suicide, whatever the fuck it is, right? And we don't talk about that stuff, especially men. And the problem here, and so I looked up some statistics, in preparation for tonight's episode. Men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women.
So do you think that's because men don't talk as much as women, or is that what we're getting from that?
Root cause analysis, I think there's lots of factors probably to it. I think one is that men don't talk about their feelings. I mean, you and I have talked about our own struggle with what the fuck feelings are.
Yeah.
My therapist had to teach me what feelings are.
I have a whole packet of things that describe feelings and that I don't really push myself to engage with.
I think some of it's that. I think in society today, how many times do you see things and it's acceptable to rip on men? Men are so fucking stupid. I caught my own wife doing it like a couple days ago. They were complaining about something, and I don't remember the full context of everything, but her and my daughter were complaining about something, and she said something like, yeah, men are just assholes. I looked over at her, I'm like, the fuck? She goes, well, not you. I'm like, well, last time I checked, I'm a fucking man. What the hell? And if I am an asshole, I mean, I'm sure I got my problems, but don't minimize my shit. I think I think some of it is, I think men are more attacked today than they've ever been.
I would agree with that.
In my lifetime.
I would agree with that. That whole thing started to shift around, 2017 or something.
Yeah.
So that's got to
be that's got to be a contributing factor. I think, lack of resources. Yeah. But I was really surprised to find 4 times.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah. In 2023, approximately 3 out of 4 suicides were men. And suicide is the leading cause of death for men under 50 in England. But you do live in England, so maybe that's a contributing factor. In the U.S., men accounted for 3.88 times more suicides than women in the year 2020. Globally, men have a suicide rate of about 16 per 100,000 compared to 5 per 100,000 for women.
That's a lot more.
World Health Organization.
Is that because there's more men than women? I don't know.
No, there's not. Statistically, that's not necessarily.
No.
I mean, there are, I think, more men than women, but I think it's within a percentage point or something.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's not good.
No. And
I guess then, so like this whole, everything that we have right now in this world is all about like, we need to make everything equal. So like, okay, if we wanted the suicide rates to be equal, is that something we would want to try and strive for? Probably not.
No, but it would be like, if, I mean, put it into context, right? If you have two sources or two, people groups, and this one is way worse than that one, it just tells you where to focus. The point isn't to, I mean, because yes, you could, according to that logic, you could.
Well, that's where like the media would start to spin stuff,
Right, but according to that logic, you could be, well, let's just raise the suicide rate in women, and then it'll be even.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is to bring this one down.
Bring it down.
Yeah, I think to make it better.
It's very high in the military too. 22%.
Oh God, it's terrible, man. Veterans that struggle, and that breaks my heart because they built service to my country, and I think a lot of people take that shit for granted, and like they give big chunks of their life, their mentality, their sometimes all of it to get, I was talking to a friend maybe a few weeks ago about, Vietnam and what it would have been like to come home from that.
Oh, I actually talked to a guy on the bus the other day. Yeah, it was crazy.
I mean,
His
how could you
stories
not
he
commit
had.
suicide? You just came from fucking hell and you just returned to another version of hell?
Hmm.
Fuck
They
that
just
shit.
dropped him off, and then he told me they the city or no. So he got back from Vietnam, and the VA or some government entity took them out for like a parade. Like, oh, here's the and then they got spit on and shit thrown at them. It's not like okay. I I've heard the stories about people like when they're coming home. I've heard that, but like we did a parade and this still happened. Like that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it is. It
Ye-
is crazy. But take the shit and like personalize it, right? So I believe, in my opinion, I think we monitor our systems, and we suck at monitoring our systems, by the way, in this industry. So we monitor our systems, but better than ourselves. So if we suck at monitoring our systems, and we suck worse at monitoring ourselves, it's like, holy fuck.
Yeah, what
And
does that really look like?
right. And so the priorities would be work on yourself. Don't worry at the expense of the systems. Fuck the systems. Work on yourself. And once you got at least, your head around it, your hands around it, you're never going to solve it, but then monitor and work on the systems. But, we can't be one at the expense of the other. And growing up, in terms of masculinity, I was told lots as a kid, man up, don't cry, pick yourself up. You'd crash your bike into a tree or do something stupid, man up. You didn't really have a place to take a lot of those feelings. And I
Well,
think,
we didn't even know what to do with them anyway, because
right.
no one's sitting there. Like we're teaching all these things in school, but you don't have an emotional intelligence class. I mean, maybe they do now, but not when I was there. So even if you wanted to talk about those feelings, like there was no place to do it.
No, right. Well, and when you get a group of men together, it's often viewed as a weakness if you talk about this
Oh,
shit.
you're a little bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I got a mental health problem that I need some help with. I can't tell anybody about it. Otherwise, I'm a little bitch, or I won't get that promotion, or I won't be able to lead. When, in my opinion, if you think about the logic in that, the right thing to do would be the opposite of that. If somebody is self-aware enough to identify issues that they have in their life, they should be promoted, because that sets an example for everybody else on the team to be healthy, to be open lines of communication. And if you can talk to your team members about things like suicide, I mean, we can talk about fucking salary. You know what I mean? We can talk about, that event that I saw that I was afraid to tell anybody about, or that link that I clicked that, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. I mean, you create this much deeper, stronger team when you talk about real shit. And I live that stuff out myself in my own team. My executive management team, we're tight as fuck because we're real. We spend our one-on-ones every week. We don't talk about business. I mean, if it comes up, it comes up. If there's something that I need to know about or we need to share with each other that's about business, we'll talk about it. But 80-90% of all the discussion is about life. It's about us. How you doing? What's good, what's bad, whatever. I don't give a fuck. When you have the transparency in the relationship, you just talk about whatever's on your mind. And I've had my leaders tell me times when they're struggling with depression. I've had my leaders tell me when they're struggling with finances, shit that you would never really share if you didn't have this transparency. But there's no judgment in any of that either. It's encouraged. I try to do the same thing. You know what I mean? So it's sad that how so many people have been programmed to penalize people for having mental health issues, when instead you should be rewarding people.
Well, I also don't like, I mean, organizations tend to want to take a hands off approach. Like, oh, that's an HR thing. Well, no, it's a people thing. You don't need just go and do something, like, help your
And
people.
when did it become more taboo to talk about mental health issues and these things than it is to talk about things like LGBTQ plus things or abortion things? You know what I mean? It's like those things, to me, like those other things are more taboo than talking about like mental health things. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, we should be able to talk
That's a
about
very
shit.
that's very interesting, yeah, I would agree with you on that. Never thought about it.
It, yeah. Well, because as a business leader, we don't struggle with it. We talk about these things because we do have, you know, uh, we have some gay people, on our teams. And it's important to know and support it, but also not go overboard with it. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's welcome. It's we don't judge on that shit, but we also don't promote specific agendas
You're
either.
not, like,
You know what I
throwing
mean?
a party every day.
No, it's a
Yeah.
balancing act for sure. But what happens when, from my own personal experience, what happens when you don't have some place to go with this? Like, let's say you have no place to go with it, which I think a lot of men do, especially if you're going to end up in this place where you told yourself or fooled yourself into believing that the only way to solve this problem is to take your own fucking life. If you don't have some place to go, right? It's burnout, it's addiction, aggression, suicide. I mean, what are you going to do? There's logic, reason would tell you, that there's
It's like a steaming tea kettle, like, it needs to go
right.
somewhere. Yeah.
There's a critical mass to this. The chickens will come home to roost. At some point, fortunate to have some really strong friends and people in my life that I could be real with, that I could talk about these things, that didn't make me feel like a pussy, like a Sally, because I'm dealing with something right now. You know what I mean? And I hope, my hope and my wish and my prayer is that this would become more mainstream. That we talk about this stuff. It's not a weakness. It's an issue that needs to be dealt with.
I think it's becoming more aware the last few years, but there's still a long way to go.
Well, if this data, so the 4 times more likely to die by suicide, that's from 2023. There's not a lot of like real.
Well, the
current data.
talk is more. I don't know if it's affecting the numbers, but I definitely see more people talking
Yeah,
on
I
the
hope so.
social media. Now, is that happening in corporate America? Is that happening in families at home? I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Because why wouldn't I be able to talk about this at work with my coworkers? I mean, is there a legitimate reason especially if I spend, a third of my life with these people, and my relationship with these people might and probably is a really big contributing factor to why I'm struggling with my mental health issues that I'm struggling with right now. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. Tell me about, well, you don't have to tell me about your work, but I know at our workplace, it's encouraged to talk about this stuff. We sent all our executives and a lot of our managers went to this mental health first aid course, which is cool because it gave you like tips on how to handle these things, right? Recognizing that I'm not qualified to give you mental health advice. I'm not qualified to diagnose any shit with you, but what I can do is encourage you to speak about these things, try to set an example. So you create an environment where it's comfortable to talk about these things, and then help point you in the right direction to try to find the answers you're looking for. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. All right, here's some other stats. So low rates of seek and help. So we know that 4 times more likely to commit suicide. Only 5% of men seek mental health services, despite high levels of loneliness and mental health struggles. 5%.
Yeah, that needs to change. Quit sucking it up. If you need help, ask for it.
Right. And I think I've shared the story with you about my son, the police officer. I went down and visited him during COVID because of the whole George Floyd thing and the whole Black Lives Matter thing and the anti-police, defund the police thing. And I was like, man, my son's got to be struggling like a motherfucker. So I went down to visit him in person because it warranted more than just by phone. Right. I mean, this isn't a phone conversation. This is a man-to-man talk conversation. So I rode my bike down to Kansas City and I like, how you doing, man? How you doing mentally? He goes, yeah, I'm struggling. I'm like, so what resources do you have? I mean, I assume the police department has counselors and shit, therapists that you can talk to. And he's like, yeah, absolutely they do, but nobody goes to them. I'm like, why doesn't anybody go to them? He goes, because it goes on your record. I'm like, that's so fucking fucked up. So that's not even like, I mean, that's a high stress environment, right? Being a police officer, not entirely different than incident response work. The consequences are different, right? Lives are at stake typically. I mean, it's more high pressure, didn't see it coming, maybe stuff, but still it's tough work. And you got to have an outlet for that shit. So it was really sad that the resources are there, yet nobody seeks it.
They're there as more of a checkbox. I mean, my question would be like, why is it bad to have it on your record?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like if I was a police captain or whoever does promotions or police commandant, whatever they are, I wouldn't, like if there's a mental health thing on their record, I would like give you kudos for that shit.
You identified it, you sought out help. Like, yeah.
Right. Well, and don't you want your fucking police officers to be like of sound mind while they're out patrolling the streets?
One would think so.
I wonder how much of like the shit police work, because in context, that stuff is actually really rare, but that's not what you see in the news, right? What you see is the exception stuff, right? Most of the police officers are really fucking good people and pretty well trained, but yes, there's some shit out there, but I wonder how much of that
everywhere.
Yeah.
There's always 10%.
And I wonder how much of the shit is shit because there's mental health problems and challenges with these police officers.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to look at any numbers for that. That would uncover a can of worms.
Let's not be real.
We can't even figure out the 22 a day veterans. Why would we want to look at
22 a day, man? 22 American veterans a day take their life. Fuck. I mean, that's like, there's no words to describe how fucking wrong that is. There's just not. It's crazy. Fuck that. Pisses me off. All right, so 5% of men. So the problem is obviously there, right? 4 times, just in suicide, not talking about other mental problems and issues. Suicide 4 times is worse, yet only 5% seek any help. About 60% of men with mental health issues never seek treatment, often due to a stigma or societal expectations of emotional stoicism. That's nuts. A 2019 study showed therapy use among men nearly doubled from 2002 to 2019. So there's certainly some progress being made.
Yeah, we're swinging.
Yeah, but it still remains low, with many men avoiding professional help due to perceptions of weaknesses.
Do you think this is going to be like one of those attrition things where the old dog just is never going to change, and as they, I guess, die off, the younger people will be more open and it'll be
Yeah.
more.
I don't know, man. I the ones that, the old dogs, they just choose to live their shitty lives, or whatever. But yeah, and there's some people. I mean, and I mean, let's be honest. There's just some people you just can't help, right? It's just, I mean,
You
that's
have to
life,
be you have to be ready for help too, and
yeah,
sometimes people are never ready, but
right.
we can't give up on those people either.
No, man, you just try to create this environment where people feel comfortable getting help when they need fucking help. It's not a sign of weakness; it's a sign of strength. We need to start inserting that into people's minds, you know, but it's crazy because everything needs to be in balance, because we also want, yes, we want people to seek therapy when they need therapy and stuff like that, but we also don't want it to be a crutch or an excuse. That's a whole nother can of worms, right? I suck at my job. Well, it's because of my mental health issues, when maybe you really don't have mental health issues. You're just a lazy motherfucker, which might be a mental health issue too, or maybe you're just incompetent. I don't know. But there are times when we use things, I think, as a crutch, which kind of devalues the whole point. So other prevalence of mental health issues in men, and I'm just going to keep focusing on this, and then we'll wrap it up. 1 in 8 men experience mental health struggles, such as depression or anxiety. 40% of men show depressive symptoms. It means 4 out of 10 men. If you put 10 men in a room, 4 of them are showing depressive symptoms, whatever that means.
I think that'd be higher.
Well, they're showing the symptoms. Doesn't mean they don't have them. You know what I mean?
Yep. I'm tracking.
And 44% of men, particularly younger men, reported suicidal ideation in the prior 2 weeks. That's crazy. So almost half of younger men in the last 2 weeks have reported suicidal ideation.
What is ideation?
It means you've thought about it. You've thought about suicide, maybe how you would do suicide. You start playing through scenarios in your mind about suicide, stuff like that. Start thinking, well, would the world be better off without me? And who would, you know what I mean? You just start playing the pros and cons, that ideation thing. That's really high, I think. Like I've had suicidal ideation in my past, just almost like a normal-ish, I think. But it's been a long time, man. I can't, definitely not within the last 2 weeks.
That's why I asked, because I was thinking through that, because that always comes up in therapy. Like, have you had suicidal thoughts recently? And for me, it's more like I think about, like, if I don't wake up, like, who's gonna know? How long is it gonna take for someone to know? Like, things like that is what I think about more, I think. I
That
don't know if
might,
they're connected or not.
I don't know. You could almost swing that in a healthy way, right? Because you're thinking legacy, maybe.
I've never thought about doing that. That's an interesting spin.
Well, because I do think of that, but not of taking my life involved in it. Like,
Right.
how do I leave? What will people say? The people that matter in my life, what will they say when I'm gone? The people that don't matter, I don't really give a fuck what they say, but like my wife, my kids, my grandkids, my
Your
friends, my
circle.
coworkers. Yeah. What would they like, would they have nice things to say, or, or would they be like, oh, thank God that motherfucker's gone. Those meetings sucked,
You don't even go to the meetings.
I know, it's true. Don't invite me to the damn meetings. But that's interesting. 44% of men, and that's the whole point of this blog post, was masculinity, focusing on men. The reason why I didn't do femininity in mental health is because I'm not a fucking woman. Like I said, I'm not somebody who can offer you, I'm not trained to give you mental health advice, but I can always share my own experiences with you. That's why we're talking masculinity ones. 6 in 10 men experience at least one traumatic event in their lifetime, which can contribute to mental health challenges like depression and PTSD. I don't know what traumatic event is. Yeah, I don't know what traumatic event is.
It's going to be defined by each person. Like that's got to be 10 out of 10.
I can think, yeah, but it's funny when I read these kinds of things. I'm like, because I'm not reading them so much to compare. I'm just kind of reading it more for like context, like what's the rest of the world go through? Because I feel like I've gone through multiple traumatic events in my lifetime.
Me too.
So like, I'd be really interested in talking to the 4 men who haven't had a traumatic event.
What's your life like, bro?
Yeah, you still living at home with mom and playing video games? I don't know.
She's cooking you dinner. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Impact on societal expectations and masculinity. This is interesting stuff. 2.5 million men in the British do, I think, a better job of collecting data on mental health stuff. 2.5 million in a British study admitted to having no close friends, contributing to loneliness and emotional repression, which aligns with.
I was going to say pre or post COVID.
I don't know the date on that study, but I think the point is, do you know men in your life that don't have any close friends? I mean,
I don't really ask. I mean,
yeah, but you don't have to ask though. I mean, you get to know people a little bit, and you're like, I don't know. I can think of a couple people that, they're just, it's obvious they don't have any close friends. And so you try to, I can't be a close friend to everybody. So it's like, you just encourage them to do close friendly type things to build deeper relationships with people. The fact of the matter is, man, it's in our fucking DNA. We have another podcast coming up, I think in a couple of weeks, where we'll talk about why the fuck are we so damn lonely? It's because we need people. That's another blog post I wrote was AI is not your friend. Don't try to make AI your fucking friend. If you need friends, get off your ass, go outside and make some damn friends. AI is not going to be your friend. So
tell me why is it easy as a kid to make friends, but it's like weird to be an adult? Hey, you want to be my friend?
Dude, it was harder for me to make friends as a kid than it is today. Because I grew up only child. I grew up on base, and we moved from one base to another base. So as soon as you started making friends, then it was time to move. And you were usually coming into an environment where there was already a close-knit group of friends, and you were the outsider trying to make friends with these friends. And I was in couple that with like the ADHD and just other issues that I had. I did not make any friends when I was a kid, and I wanted friends desperately as a kid. I always felt fucking lonely. A lot of times I would break shit of my father's just to get his attention, because negative attention was better than no attention. And that's how lonely I was. And I remember it was like sometime around late elementary school, maybe early middle school, I gave up making friends. Like, fuck it. I'm not even going to try to make friends anymore. I can't. And it was at that point that I started making friends. So what I learned from that was the harder I try to make friends, the harder it is to make friends. And then I just started like just being me. Like, this is who I am. Yeah, fuck it. And being comfortable being alone. And that's when I started like making more friends, and even friends I didn't want to have. I mean, I don't really want any more friends, And it's funny because you mentioned Kevin earlier, and Kevin kind of gives me shit because Kevin feels like Like, he's like, how do you have so many friends and shit? I'm like, and I told him, I think the reason why I have so many friends is because I don't want any fucking friends. That's so I don't know. I don't know if there's some truth to that. Like, the harder you try to make friends, I think the harder it is to make friends. The harder you're trying to find a girlfriend, the harder it is to find a girlfriend. Just be your fucking self. I don't know. That's what worked for me. That's
wisdom right there, people.
It just seems so like that's what worked. I tried so hard as a kid. I remember going to the bus stop and nobody liking me, and I'd be crying, but I couldn't cry in front of anybody, so I had to go cry behind a tree. Nobody likes me. Nobody invites me to fucking Christmas, birthday parties, and I couldn't figure it out. And I think it turned out because I was trying to make friends. It's weird. All right. Men are more likely to mask depression with unhealthy coping mechanisms such as excessive work, substance abuse, or risk-taking behaviors, which can exacerbate mental health issues. I also agree with that. That's my default.
Mm-hmm.
Societal pressures around traditional masculinity can contribute to emotional suppression, with many men feeling vulnerability is a weakness, leading to higher rates of aggression, addiction, or apathy. Health disparities and stigma. Men in most deprived areas of England live almost 10 years less than those in the least deprived areas, often due to unrelated health issues, including mental health.
That's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Stress, I guess.
Yeah. Only 60% of men visit a doctor for annual checkups. It's me.
I believe that.
Yeah, I'm not part of that 60%. And 40% wait until serious health issues arise. That's
for sure.
I fall into
it's
that.
Not broken. Put some duct tape on it.
Yeah. But that reflects a reluctance to address health concerns, including mental health. Stigma around men's mental health prevents open conversations, with many men feeling they must suffer in silence to prove strength. It's bullshit. The stigma is, I think every fucking stigma is bullshit.
Just be you. Talk about shit.
Right. And I understand. I mean, I want to be empathetic of people that struggle with being themselves. I know that it's not easy for everybody. There's some of us have traumatic experiences in the past where it's like, I can't be myself because it hurts or whatever. That's when you reach out for help. Because I really don't think there's any other way to live life to its fullest without being honest with yourself and being yourself. If you want to live the fullest, most vibrant, best life, you got to get real with yourself and you got to be yourself. I really believe that, man. Because it's something I learn more and more about every day. But I know that my quality of life today, mentally, relationship-wise, is better today than it's ever been. And I think it's attributed to those things. So, you got anything to close this thing up with, sir?
No more comments. Just if you're still here and any of this resonates with you, don't forget, hit us with some chats, comment on the blog, like, subscribe. We want to chat.
Yeah. And next week we're talking about, what are we talking about next week? Do you know?
I actually owe someone a chat from here. We've been on and off. I need to get on top of that.
Helping people and stuff.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Well, good chat. Thanks it's good to see you again after a 1 week layoff. And we'll tighten this. We'll tighten these episodes up and try to get them done in like less than 2 hours and stay on focus or some shit.
It's hard.
Or maybe we'll pay somebody.
Hard to keep you. I'm trying.
Oh, me? Fuck yeah. Talk to my wife about that. But Maybe we'll just pay an editor to edit this thing down and make it into something legit.
I'm down for that. We can chat.
I love you, brother. Have a good
Love you too, man.
rest of the evening. We'll talk again soon.
We'll talk soon. You guys have a good evening.